So let me spend another segment talking about the event and profiling another player. Today I'm going to focus in on Dan in Denver, a perennial golden ticket caller turned second-time Smackoff participant last year. Dan's been calling the program for the better part of maybe the last half-decade, but he made a name for himself literally by telling all of us to remember his name.
Dan in Denver, remember the name.
That's how that guy got on the radar. Dan in Denver, remember the name.
Dan in Denver, remember the name.
But 2019 was when he really started to make calls that were worth remembering. Like he would tell us to remember the name, but not give us any reason to remember the name. But then that changed. This guy's game got better and better and better. And then he did give us some reasons to remember that name, such as the time he took dead aim at the 5-time champ, Shawnee, the Cablinasian.
When they call you the idol maker, and that's true, look no further than the Cablinasian. He parlayed this thing into his own weekly show. Sean, you host a show once a week that no one listens to. Who are you, the Woodscopes? Sean, you and I both get on CBS airwaves a couple minutes a week. We're paid about the same, too. And I like how Sean showed up with Carbone last year wearing a Letterman jacket from 2 decades ago, beer guts spilling out the front so it doesn't zip anymore. 10 years between calls. Bro, this isn't a high school reunion. You all but rented a Ferrari for the night. People didn't even recognize you. They just whispered, that's the guy who used to be really good at calling a radio show. He doesn't look very good anymore. Sean, why don't you do us all another favor and go away for 10 years? I'll see you in the Smackoff 35, bitch.
How deep is the field? I mean, you get smacked like that. That guy came in 8th. That's how deep that field is. I mean, going after Shawnee proved that he was fearless. He didn't give a damn about a fistful of jewelry or accolades from a decade back. Just like he didn't give one damn about Keith Arnold when Keith left the show shortly after that call that I just played.
Hey, I caught the show the other day when you were openly petitioning to find Keith Arnold's replacement. I noticed you said no previous experience required. Boy, that's got to make you feel important, Keith. Keith, you went to Notre Dame and still ended up with a job that didn't require experience. What was this, an internship? A senior project? Are you getting class credits for this stint? Are you leaving for good or just headed home for the summer semester? And Rome, if Alvy's the brains of the XR4TI, Keith Arnold was the tonsil. We can all see him, but we're not really sure what he does or why he's there. And Keith, I heard you played baseball at Notre Dame in '98. Well, played isn't really the right word, seeing as you had one appearance. One appearance for one inning. What'd you do throughout the ceremonial first pitch? You've seen less first and second base than Caleb in Green Bay. Were you the guy in charge of warming up the right fielder in between innings? Did you shag foul balls and return them to the snack shack? Finally, Jim, since Ritt's been getting all the A-list podcast guests for you, maybe just not fill Arnold's chair at all. Just let Ritt use it as a footrest.
So, clearly Dan in Denver had begun to hit his stride in 2019. And for the second time ever, he managed to keep his golden ticket all the way up until the main event. And last year in Smackoff 25, he showed up and he did this.
Jim, like the Cablinasian hosting a show during the daylight, I'm just happy to be here. Bro, you're the whitest thing in the jungle since Bodie's rapping. And nice call, Matt and Van. Bro, your delivery was worse than a 3-wheeled UPS truck. And bro, I'm glad to see Chael Perfection Sonnen finally decided to call it quits. Chael, your fight name was Perfection. I'm struggling to see what's perfect about you. Your fighting career, 17 losses. Your Smackoff career, embarrassed in the last 2 Smackoffs. Your body, hell no. Dude, Bellator actually demanded you fight with a shirt on if you fight again. Chael fighting without PEDs is like Lef and Laguna calling today without a gimmick. No shot to win. But, Romy, who the hell chose the Bucks as Milwaukee's mascot? I love how their motto is fear the deer. What are you going to do? Jump out in front of my vehicle and then stop and stare at my headlights waiting for me to hit you? Brad and Corona, if only your smack last year hit as hard as your nipples were in that photo. Did you rub ice on those things pre-photo, or did they perk up around the end of your call when Vic started shouting your name?
That sophomore effort was good for 8th. Again, this is how deep this competition is. That was only good enough for 8th, as good as that was. Now, normally 8th is nothing to flex, but it instantly transformed Dan from pretender to actual contender. and it got him an automatic bid into this year's event. So, is Dan the guy to beat? No, I'm not saying that. Probably not, given who he has to go up against, given how long they've been doing it. But is he a factor? Hell yes. Could he hit the board? Maybe. And is he a guy who can potentially make the most listened to show of the year and arguably the most important show of the year even better? You know he can.
Did I hear Rick say he got with Vic and NoCal's old lady? Yeah, he's a regular old Rico Suave. I'm sure you're a real freak in the sheets, Rick. What lady doesn't want to see you take rips on your oxygen mask afterwards? Now I'm done. Nooch, you brown-nosing little bitch. You won't get a golden ticket by praising the host. I've gotten 2, and I'm pretty sure Jim hates me. Just like you won't win a Smackoff by bashing him. I'm looking at you, Chael. But way to come different getting Rome's ink inked on your body. What's next? You going to drive across the country in your car, sleeping with a seat reclined, host a jungle clone stock, jump through a folding table, develop a speech impediment to begin your next call? Way to take points from Kyle in Green Bay. He's a great guy to model yourself after. Matt's call delivery is so awkward, I can't tell if he's making a phone call or imitating your hockey prediction. Mark, in Boston, you said you were the greatest to ever relocate from Boston to Tampa. Does that mean you kiss your kids better than Brady does, too? Big move for the Broncos acquiring Joe Flacco. This transaction puts Denver a quarterback away from being good again. Hey, Matt, quick reminder. You're a caller to a radio show, and a bad one at that. You had a 25-second call where you called someone a bitch and a penis. Hey, Matt, if you don't have anything funny to say, just don't call. That's what Les, Mike, Mark, and Vic do. Jimmy, that effort was so poor, the IRS tried to send it a stimulus check. I'm going to hang up and listen, Jim, so that bitch can respond via email.
So Dan right now is going off at 11-1. I see this in horse racing all the time where you've got like these monsters, the horses to beat, and you've got that one that's like middle of the pack, 11-1, and he's running out front. And you figure that that's the speed. It's going to drop back. But then all of a sudden, the horse is not coming back to the pack. And 11-1, who's running in pretty good fractions, and you got to go out and get him. You know, and sometimes those horses do finish, and they do win. They don't fall back middle of the pack. You wonder about Dan. He's got that kind of talent. He's got that kind of game. Can he hold off some of the monsters? At 11-1 right now in Stucknut, he's even ahead of guys like Matt in Van, Cal in Vegas, and Jeff from Richmond, a former champion. A year ago, nobody could imagine Dan in Denver being an 11-1 caller to win the Smackoff, but he's earned it, and he's going to be somebody to watch. June 19th, he'll get his chance to shock the world. See you in 16 days, Danny.